Hello, YouTubers, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 11 articles in this episode for you, and all the URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. The first one I have here is off of The Sun, and it says, Kim in the crosshairs. North Korea in missile strike before crazed despot Kim Jong-un can destroy the country in nuclear attack. Tyrant has angered the entire region with recent missile tests. Japan is paving the way for war against North Korea by ushering in new laws allowing preemptive strikes after despot Kim Jong-un angered the region with missile tests. Amazu, the head of Japan's ruling party, told the Washington Post Japan can't just wait until it's destroyed. It's legally possible for Japan to strike an enemy base that's launching a missile at us, but we don't have the equipment or capacity to create a new law allowing it to launch a preemptive strike against North Korea. Video and some pictures in this if you want to pull them up, take a look at them. As discussions surrounding the law change were supported by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Defense Minister Jen Nakatante. Nakatante told the paper, I believe that we should consider having the capacity to strike. Constitution created in the wake of a secret world war means it's illegal for the country to launch an attack. It can only go to war in self-defense. But a group of influential politicians are lobbying for the law change that would allow them to take the front foot against North Korea. Last week, Japan also began staging mass evacuation. Tensions in the region heated up. Just hours ago, it was reported Kim Jong-un was preparing another nuke test to commemorate his dead grandfather. There has been increased activity at the Punggye-ri nuclear test site in North Korea, leading experts to believe the country's next nuclear test is imminent, according to the Yonhap news agency. Recently threatened to reduce the U.S. to ashes as tensions with North Korea continue to increase. And last week, a propaganda video mocked up his troops destroying a U.S. aircraft carrier and downing a bomber jet. Goal is off of foxnews.com. It says Flynn in talks to testify in Trump-Russia probe if assured of immunity. And this, if you want to pull it up to see that. It says former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn is in discussions with the House and Senate Intelligence Committees from prosecution in exchange for questioning about political potential ties between Russia and officials in President Donald Trump's campaign, his lawyer said on Thursday. His attorney, Robert Keltner, retired Army Lieutenant General, certainly has a story to tell, and he's very much wants to tell it, should the circumstances permit. The discussions were first reported by the Wall Street Journal. The report cited officials who said that Flynn has made offers to the FBI and the House and Senate Intelligence Committees through Keltner, so far found no takers. Jack Langer, a spokesman for House Intelligence Committee Chairman Representative David Nunes, Republican of California, said Flynn had not offered to testify before the committee in exchange for immunity. However, Langer did not say whether or not Flynn had spoken to committee members about a possible deal. A congressional aide confirmed to the Associated Press that discussions with the Senate Intelligence Committee involved immunity. The aide spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private conversations. In his statement, Keltner said that no reasonable person would submit to questioning in such a highly politicized witch hunt environment without assurances against unfair prosecution. Flynn's ties to Russia have been scrutinized by the FBI and are under investigation by the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. Both committees are looking into Russia's meddling in the 2016 presidential election and any ties between Trump associates and the Kremlin. Since July, the FBI has been conducting a counterintelligence investigation into Russia's interference in the election and possible coordination with Trump associates. 4 other Trump associates have come forward in recent weeks saying they would talk to committees. As of Wednesday, the Senate Intelligence Committee had asked to interview 20 people as part of the probe. In his statement, Keltner said the political climate in which Flynn is facing claims of treason and vicious innuendo is factoring into his negotiations with the committee. He was fired from his job as President Donald Trump's first national security advisor after it was disclosed that he misled the vice president about a conversation he had with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. During the transition. In the weeks after he reassigned, Flynn and his business registered with the Justice Department as foreign agents for $530,000 worth of lobbying work that could have benefited the Turkish government. The lobbying occurred while Flynn was a top Trump campaign advisor. The Turkish businessman who hired Flynn, Ekim Alpakin, has told the AP that Flynn's firm registered under the pressure from the Justice Department. Next article is off of BizPac Review. It says, Krauthammer has an awesome suggestion if Dems filibuster Gorsuch, and it involves Clint Eastwood. Charles Krauthammer thinks a Democratic filibuster of Supreme Court nominee Judge Neil Gorsuch should get Republicans to start channeling Clint Eastwood. Threats from Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer to push filibuster of President Trump's pick, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, to employ the nuclear option to confirm Gorsuch. Krauthammer warned on Fox News Channel's special report on Tuesday. If Schumer wants to trigger the nuclear option, I would quote Clint Eastwood with those immortal words, "Make my day," because it would be a disaster for the Democrats, Krauthammer said. To avoid a Senate filibuster, which is unusual for Supreme Court nominees, Gorsuch needs 60 total votes to be confirmed. But with 52 Republicans, there is a need to secure another 8 Democrats to reach the 60-vote threshold, and none have stepped forward. If New York Democrat Schumer breaks with tradition and pushes to filibuster, it may not end well for those wishing to avoid going nuclear. McConnell could impose a rule change that would lower the threshold from 60 to 51, allowing Gorsuch to be confirmed on a party line vote. If that happens, Krauthammer predicted Trump's next nominee for Supreme Court will not be from central casting, noting he or she would be more to the political right than Gorsuch. It's going to be a much harder edge conservative, he said, and it will be easy as hell for the Republicans to get him through or her through, requiring only 51. Goal is off of Liberty Headlines. It says, Michael Moore says Trump will cause human extinction. Say, huh? Liberal propagandist Michael Moore said Tuesday afternoon on Twitter that President Donald Trump will cause the extinction of human life on Earth. Historians in the near future will mark today, March 28th of 2017, is 3 days, as the day of extinction of human life on Earth began, thanks to Donald Trump, Moore tweeted. Historians Historians in the near future will mark today, March 28, 2017, as the day the extinction of human life on Earth began, thanks to Donald Trump. Michael Moore, March 28, 2017. Moore was angry Trump repealed a host of Obama-era job-killing regulations. Trump has signed orders to kill all of Obama's climate change regulations. The EPA is prohibited henceforth from focusing, Moore said in a follow-up tweet. It's incredible we somehow managed to survive before these regulations were put in place just a few years ago. Next article is off BizPac Review. It says, Rob Schneider obliterates Democrats and their tired Russian interference mantra with one brutal tweet. In a single tweet, actor Rob Schneider obliterated the Democrat narrative that Russia is responsible for their loss in the November presidential election, unless the Kremlin has been hard at work since 2010. After recapping the Democrats' recent electoral outcome Wednesday on social media, Snyder had to break it to the party. It's not Russia, it's you. He tweeted it. He says, 2010 Dems lost the House. 2012 Dems lost the Senate. 2016 Dems lost the White House. 2017 Dems lost ability to reason. It's not Russia, it's you. Desperate to nullify the outcome of the election and remove President Donald Trump from the White House, the Democratic Party has been riding the Russian interference narrative into the ground, despite little evidence surrounding to support the claim. Not the first time Schneider has called Democrats out over their obsession with Russia. Bo Snerdley tweeted out, pro-Trump actor Rob Schneider's brilliantly funny analogy about Dems and Russia sets off mad triggers. And says social media users ate up Schneider's assessment, with some calling the tweet of the day. Here's a sampling of responses from Twitter. One says, I wake up every morning and I'm so happy that the Republicans run the country, resist, and we win in 2018 also. And I'll pick another one out here. Rob nails it. Another one says, damn, Rob, who would have thunk you had it in you? Saturday Night Live didn't rub off on you. And let's see, another says, oh, thank God, I thought all of Hollywood lost their mind. There's a bunch more if you want to read them all. The next one's off Liberty Headlines. It says, Rand Paul introduces effort to halt unreasonable property seizures. Groundbreaking justice reform has been submitted in Congress, which would dramatically change how law enforcement and prosecutors treat the rights of those they accuse. Senator Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, recently introduced legislation to overhaul the Department of Justice's civil asset forfeiture capabilities. The Fifth Amendment Integrity Restoration Act, called FAIR, with Representative Tim Walberg, Republican of Michigan, as an effort to rein in the DOJ's abuse of the practice. For those unfamiliar with the process, civil assets forfeiture is different from criminal asset forfeiture in that it doesn't require the conviction of a criminal act. The federal government collected a total of $4.5 billion via civil asset forfeiture procedures in 2014 alone. The legalization focuses reform efforts on 5 areas in which the DOJ has to abuse the process, including its use of collected funds and collaboration with local and state law enforcement. First, the legislation redirects funds garnished via civil asset forfeiture from the stewardship with the DOJ and instead puts them into the Treasury's general fund. The legislation puts an end to the practice of DOJ sharing funds with local and state law enforcement agencies, known as equitable sharing. The reform-minded legislation does more than enact financially responsible restrictions on the DOJ. It also provides greater protection for individuals under the law. FAIR aims to also rein in unwarranted searches and seizures. The practice of civil asset forfeiture confiscates cash, houses, cars, and more of individuals before a trial is held, and even before an action is brought against a defendant. Forfeiture occurs on sides of the road when the subjects aren't permitted their right to a lawyer. Individuals are often small business owners and are put into financial hole when victimized by authoritarian civil asset forfeiture practices. The government has increasingly come under fire in recent years for its cases that abuse civil asset forfeiture, including one such case in North Carolina. Greensboro businessman Roderick Jessup was the subject of abusive civil asset forfeiture tactics in 2015 when the government took nearly $5 million, 40 vehicles, and property from his company. Jessup was the owner of the now dissolved Gate City Transportation, a company that transported terminally ill patients to medical facilities for treatment. A federal judge told Jessup in April of 2016 that he would most likely not get his assets returned to him. For too long, tens of thousands of Americans have lost their hard-earned savings, cars, businesses, and even their homes to unjust civil forfeiture system, said Scott Bullock, President and General Counsel for the Institute for Justice, a public interest law firm that fights civil forfeiture nationwide. The FAIR Act is a bold effort that would enact the FAIR Act is a bold effort that would enact many urgently needed reforms and end many of the appalling practices endemic to current law. The article is off of Breitbart. It says Trump budget proposes to end Obama's federal land grabs. Donald Trump has pledged to end the federal acquisition of land, which rose by record levels under Barack Obama, and instead invest in preserving its current holdings as part of a series of interior reforms in the Trump White House's first. The budget proposes that it will reduce funding for lower priority activities, such as new major acquisitions of federal land. The budget reduces land acquisition funding by more than $120 million from the 2017 annualized CR level and would instead focus available discretionary funds on investing in and maintaining existing national parks, refuges, and public lands. In December 2016, Obama decreed 2 more national monuments to federal ownership, the New Bear Ears Buttes Monument in Nevada and Gold Butte Monument in Utah, on the grounds of conservation and protection using the 1906 Antiquities Act. Overwhelmingly opposed by Republican lawmakers, with Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee describing it as an arrogant act designed to overrule the state legislature and public opposition to its seizure. Obama's final land grab took the total acres of land seized by the federal government under his presidency to 553 million acres, more than any other president in history. The federal government currently controls 25% of all land in the U.S. and 50% of the land west of Colorado and 85% of the land across the Nevada desert, which is unconstitutional. The next article I have is off of BizPac Review. It says Americans school fuming EU boss who just threatened he'd work to dismantle USA over Brexit. Trump. Sour grapes appear to be in season throughout the European continent nowadays. European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker announced Thursday that he will promote the succession of Texas and Ohio from the United States if President Donald Trump doesn't stop his pro-Brexit and anti-European Union rhetoric. One heck of a trick if he could actually pull it off. There is a video in here by the Express, it says, if you want to see it. Juncker made his remarks at a meeting of leaders of the center-right European People's Party in Malta on Thursday. He said that despite the wishes of people like Trump to see the end to the European Union, Brexit will not lead to its breakup. Brexit isn't the end. A lot of people would like it that way, even people on another continent where the newly elected president was happy that Brexit was taking place and has asked other countries to do the same, he said. If he goes on like that, I'm going to promote the independence of Ohio and Austin, Texas in the U.S. Although one reporter claimed to have heard a few chuckles after Juncker's comments, he appeared to be dead serious when making them. The Express reported the remarks are diplomatic dynamite at the time when the relations between Washington and Brussels are already strained over Europe's meager contributions to NATO and U.S. leaders' open preference for dealing with national governments. They are by far the most outspoken intervention any senior EU figure has made about Mr. Trump and are likely to dismay some European leaders who were hoping to seek a policy rapprochement. Try that again. We were hoping to seek, well, for crying out loud. We're hoping to seek a policy of rapprochement with their most important ally. There we go. Politico's report on Juncker's warning shots stirred lots of commentary on social media. And There's some tweets here. Politico Europe tweeted out, if he goes on like that, I'm going to promote the independence of Texas, Juncker said of Trump's remark. One tweets out here, how much plonk had Plonker Junker taken at the time. Another one says, California is far more likely to secede than Texas. The California observation was probably more wishful thinking than anything. Even Jonathan Arnott, a British member of the European Parliament, wondered if Junkers had taken leave of his senses. The comments continued pouring in. One says, angry old man needs to resign. One says, Junker has always been and always will be an incompetent drunken bum. He proves it every time he opens his mouth. It says, and it wouldn't be complete without a word from Brexit leader and Trump supporter Nigel Farage. He tweeted out, Junker's made a complete fool of himself again. The USA was formed by consent while the EU is being imposed. It was prompted in part by the vast migration of refugees from the Middle East to Europe, a move hailed by German Chancellor Angela Merkel, but condemned by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. We Central Europeans expect that if things continue like this, there will be a dominant Muslim presence in Western Europe, Orban said, according to Politico. Migration turned out to be the Trojan horse of terrorism. The next article I have is off of Liberty Headlines. It says, states scramble to expand Obamacare after the GOP flop. Toying with the idea of expanding Medicaid programs under Obamacare after President Donald Trump and Republican leadership failed to pass health care reform last Friday. Barack Obama's health care legislation was essentially a giant expansion of Medicaid, the federal state health care program for poor and disabled Americans. Obamacare provided low-income families and individuals who previously did not meet Medicaid standards the means to obtain health insurance by altering qualifications and providing subsidies for individuals 400% below the poverty line. The expansion program offered some tangible benefits to states that chose to participate. For states that chose to play ball, Washington provides a subsidy to help cover the cost of, in many cases, hundreds of thousands of people who get coverage once the program takes effect. The cost sharing weighs heavily in the state's benefits. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that the federal government will incur nearly 93% of the cost of Medicaid expansion over the first 9 years. Some 32 states have adopted Obamacare's Medicaid expansion program since the landmark health care legislation took full effect in 2014. Its lawmakers increasingly believe that Obamacare will continue to be the law of the land. States that previously eschewed Obamacare's Medicaid expansion are now seeing it as a safety precaution if Republicans maintain unable to push a viable repeal platform. Kansas voted earlier in March to expand Medicaid in the face of by the state's Republican governor and congressman. Additionally, states like Virginia and North Carolina are considering growing their Medicaid programs. The move by states with Republican leadership is interesting, given that the Republican repeal legislation effectively overhauled the way the government currently funds Medicaid. Platform states that had opted out of the expansion program would have gotten substantially less Medicaid funding than states that had opted in previously. Therefore, the choice to now comply may be a politically savvy move should Republicans choose to make similar cuts to Medicaid in the future proposals. Republican leadership is promised that the health care reform will take a back seat to tax reform and Trump's other pro-growth policies until lawmakers can see a clear path forward for repealing Obamacare, despite rumors Tuesday that Republican members were gearing up to push for repeal later in the week. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan isn't shooting down the possibility for healthcare reform in the near future, but has said he will not give a timeline because leadership wants to get it right the next time. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy gives a more optimistic but just as nebulous an explanation, providing no tangible time for the next repeal effort. The fact that our conference is more resolved than ever to repeal this law is very encouraging, and we're not going to stop until we get it done. Secretary of Health and Human Services Tom Price is scheduled to appear before a House subcommittee, and lawmakers and states' respective leadership will be listening for clarification on what the Trump administration's plan is for the next moves on health care reform. The next article is off of BizPac Review. It says, Furious Huckabee questions much more than just Graham's political leanings. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee sometimes wonders what team Graham is playing on. So do we all, Governor, so do we all. I'm very disappointed, Lindsay, Huckabee said of the South Carolina Republican to conservative radio host Laura Ingraham on Wednesday. Huckabee was referring to Graham's comparison of the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Representative David Nunes to the bumbling Pink Panther character Inspector Jacques Clouseau. I sometimes wonder what uniform he puts on each morning when he goes out to the field to play, and I'm not just talking about the partisan uniform, he continued in an apparent reference to Graham's sexual preferences. The 61-year-old senator and former Air Force Reserve officer has never married. I think to bring that kind of criticism and to call the chairman of the House Intel Committee, who is a person of integrity, to call him Inspector Clouseau, to use those kind of terms basically to diminish him is very unfortunate. It's very demeaning. Social media didn't hold back. One says, Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, time to come out of all closets. Huckabee criticized Lindsey Graham. It says, is Lindsey Graham gay? Mike Huckabee says, yeah, probably. Answer, yes. Another one says, no doubt in my mind, easy to pick every time. No, there's some pictures in this and these tweets that you won't want to miss. You might want to pull this up. It says, just ask John McCain, he'd know. Another one says, Lindsey Graham's not gay, he's just happy. Does it really matter so long as he does the right thing? Another one says, I don't give a shit if he's coming. Try this again. I don't give a shit if he's from Uranus as long as he comes around and supports Trump's agenda. Graham addressed his marital status several years ago. I guess I attribute that to timing, he said back in 2015 book, My Story. The opportunity never presented itself at the right time, or I never found the time to meet the right girl, or the right girl was smart enough not to have time for me. Amen to that. Next one we have is off of BizPac Review. Hillary's vice presidential wannabe hilariously smacked down over lies about Gorsuch. Senator Tim Kaine is not only opposing the nomination of Judge Neil Gorsuch, he attempted to smear the Supreme Court nominee in a false statement. And failed vice presidential candidate championed the cause of Planned Parenthood and attacked Gorsuch on the issue of reproductive rights. Kaine tweeted out, today and every day, I'm proud to stand with PP and the 2.5 million who rely on their care and services. Another tweet he put out, after meeting with Judge Gorsuch and studying his past decisions, I've decided to oppose his nomination, and there is a link to his full statement. Kaine fired off a series of tweets elaborating on the judge's selective activism in restricting women's rights. He puts out another tweet saying Judge Gorsuch has taken an activist approach to cases involving a woman's right to make her own health decisions. Another tweet says he has cavalierly referred to contraceptive use, a constitutionally protected right for 50+ years, as the wrongdoing of others. He has argued bosses have individual rights to prevent their company's female employees from using health insurance to buy contraception. Another one says Judge Gorsuch's selective activism in restricting women's rights is jarring and doesn't demonstrate a philosophy that belongs on SCOTUS. Either Kaine resorted to making things up in a desperate reach for a reason to oppose the highly qualified Gorsuch, or the senator simply can't read. Ed Krantz tweeted out, Tim Kaine, please cite a source for the quote. Stefano Sangovis tweeted out, "Of course you have actual proof of all you claim, right, Tim Kaine? We'll wait." And another one is from Richard Allen. It says, "Tim Kaine, you just made that up." Gorsuch's wrongdoing of others statement came from his 10th Circuit opinion in the 2013 Hobby Lobby case that focused on whether a company that did not want to provide contraceptive health benefits ordered by Obamacare regulations was protected under the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And someone named CIPSA tweeted out what Gorsuch wrote supporting Green's RFRA claim and religious interpretation that contraceptives were gravely wrong. He did not appear to be stating his views that contraception is morally wrong, but was expressing the views of the Green family, owners of Hobby Lobby. Kaine seemed to have missed that point and was quickly called out for lying. One tweeted out, "What an absurd series of tweets. Ashamed to have you as my senator. Thought you were supposed to be a moderate." Another one tweets out, "Kaine is relying on the stupidity of his supporters not to understand that he is lying." Another one says, "Have you considered not lying? At some point, you should say something that isn't a lie." Another one says, "This is a lie," or "Kaine can't read," one of the two. Another one says, "What is surprising on how readily he throws away his credibility to toe the party line on an issue where defeat is ensured." Twitter users continued to react to Kaine's statement, calling him out for his foolish attempt to discredit Gorsuch. One says, "These statements you are making are misleading and a misinterpretation of the facts. We need less of this from our government." Another one says, "Tim Kaine cavalierly deceives voters through his intentionally misleading tweets," saving this one for 2018. Another one says, "Tim Kaine, false. That's not what was said." Another one says, "Tim Kaine disappointing enough to have a president who spreads falsehoods that men such as you do it, and on this, it's disheartening." Another one says, "This sort of dishonesty is why you lost." Another one, "Protecting religious freedom is not activism. You're Christian in name only is showing. Free birth control to women isn't a right." Another one says, "Tim Kaine, sorry. Your political agenda is showing. He will be confirmed and Dems will suffer yet another defeat." Another one says, "Dishonest." Another one says, "You are my senator, not the DNC's. You know he is good and decent man and that he's good for SCOTUS. Do what is right." Another one says, "Activism? He's fairly applied the law. He was bound to follow it. It would be activist to do otherwise. Record is clear." Selective activism? Did we watch the same confirmation hearing? This man is what I want all 9 justices to be. Another one says, "With no dirt, you have to resort to lying to make your case. Typical Democrat, typical Hillary shill." Another one, "As VA resident, I will volunteer to work for whomever opposes Kaine politically. That is my promise. Grow up." There's a lot of comments after this too that you might want to take a look at if you're interested in that. But bottom line is he made an ass of himself yet again. And that's all I have for you this morning. If you like what I'm doing, give it a thumbs up. Share it on your social media so everybody gets to enjoy this entertainment. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that. And that way you'll stay informed. Have a great day.